up. Get ready. It's going to be a very, very intense journey. Begin.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Frameskip Podcast. I am one of your hosts for the evening, Elijah Seal, and with me is George Loftus.
Hey, I'm still thinking about Top Gun, are you?
Yeah, I am always thinking about Top Gun. I literally was thinking about something Top Gun today. I don't remember what it is. Oh, I read like 2 articles today about how it's doing crazy good. It's setting all these records, and it's going to pass 1 billion soon. Oh, and the other one was Paramount doesn't know a date when they're going to put it on streaming yet because it's still doing incredibly good in theaters. And I don't blame them.
I pre-ordered the 4K already.
Same.
And it's weird, man. It's really weird because it's like that movie is just like straight up propaganda, right? Like there's
Absolutely.
no two ways about it.
Nope. It is.
But there's no danger if you know it's propaganda, right? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know how guilty I should feel enjoying that movie as much as I do. But also, when was the last time like a non-comic book movie passed 1 billion, right? Like Star Wars Force Awakens crossed 1 billion. I think all of the Star Wars crossed 1 billion.
Actually.
I feel like it was Fast and the Furious, right?
So, no, because, and I was just listening to Kind of Funny's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom in review, and they said after Fallen Kingdom, only 4 movies have passed that in size, like in amount of money made, and Fallen Kingdom hit 1.3 billion. Okay. And the movies were Spider-Man, Endgame, Frozen 2, and The Lion King.
Man, The Lion King was like, we didn't need it, you know. Like that's my big thing about The Lion King is that like it was.
I haven't seen it, and honestly, I'm okay if I don't.
It was exact beat for beat the animated movie, you know. Like there was some funnier things, like Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner as Timon and Pumbaa, awesome. I think it was Donald Glover. I think he was the voice of Simba. He was great, you know. But besides that, it's like, do we need this? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, no. But yeah, those 2 have hit over 1 billion in since 2018, or a little before. Yeah, since 2018.
That's different though. Like Jurassic Park's different, right? Because there's been like one movie every like 5 to 6 years for the last 30 years. So it's always like, you know, poked and prodded audiences to be like, hey, you remember us? We're still around. You remember us? It's been 30 something years since the first Top Gun.
Oh God, yes. And that's kind of like last week you mentioned, was there too much nostalgia in it? And it got me thinking, how many people are going to go see this movie without knowing? Because if you go, it's not like in the trailers, it's like the sequel to the hit 80s movie or anything. People are going to go thinking, oh, it's a fighter jet movie. Like people who just don't know or that. Like younger people, maybe like in their early 20s or that.
Yeah.
So they kind of had to do some of that. Otherwise, like the sections where it was showing like Goose and him, it made it much easier to understand how exactly how close they were to people who never saw the original.
Yeah, I guess. I just like when I was talking about that, I'm just like, did we see too many like scenes ripped out of the original? You know?
Yeah.
Like also, could they have done a better job of showing and not telling in that regard?
Yeah. Also, if the sequel was 5 years after, they'd be like, yeah, way too much. If it was 10 years after, way too much. This is 36 years. This is a grown adult's age after the original. So, like, I'm giving them a little leeway on that one.
Yeah, but also, I don't know, like, Die Hard 4 came out like 12 years, 14 years after the third one, right? So it's like, well, certain movies, I think, can get away with it. I think Top Gun probably could have done a better job of, like, even if it was just, like, him looking stoically over like a photo of her, like I would have rather seen that than just like the actual flash. Like I just thought it was lazy compared to the rest of the storytelling, which was incredible. You know, like they went so far out of their way to make everything else so like epic and awesome, and then they like literally just did like previously on Top Gun for those scenes.
I heard in Tom Cruise's voice previously on Top Gun.
You're welcome.
And I kind of wish that happened now.
You're welcome for planting that seed in there. I mean, we got Jag. We got 7 seasons of Jag. It's basically Top Gun 2.
But George, how are you doing this week? What have you been up to and playing?
I'm good. I think I'm emotionally recovered from watching my basketball team lose in the finals. I mean, as much as I can be without alcohol, as soon as I have a glass of wine, I'm just gonna be thinking about the title that got away.
That's fair.
But besides that, I've been good. Still eating healthy, losing weight, feeling great. Been watching seasons of Dragon Ball Z that I've never seen before, getting deep into the Boo saga.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, never seen it.
Neither have I, and I've owned the Boo saga for years.
I've been just putting it on in the background. It's really nice. The Blu-rays have the marathon feature that the old DVDs had. So it's just, they cut out the previously on Dragon Ball Z.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I forgot about that.
And so it just goes from episode to episode to episode. But the narration doesn't make sense. They didn't cut that out for the teasing. They'll be and what about Vegeta? What happens to him? And then it immediately cuts into the next episode and we find out exactly what happens to Vegeta. It's good though. It's super fun. I'm preparing. I'm going to jump into Super when I'm done with this.
Ooh, very nice. I've never seen Super either.
I think
I've seen
done
3 of the movies.
Yeah, I've seen Battle of the Gods. That's the only one I've seen recently.
Because I've seen Battle of the Gods,
Resurrection F or something.
Resurrection F, yeah, and Broly.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those. I watched the original Broly movie. The original Broly movie is better than I remember, but it's still not very good.
This new one is actually super good.
Oh, man, the original Dragon Ball Z movies were so hit or miss. It's kind of funny. They would come out once a year, twice a year, every 6 months or so. There would just be basically just an extended 2-part episode.
Oh my god, Dead Zone.
The first 3, yeah, Earth's Strongest.
Yeah,
Earth's Strongest, Earth's Mightiest. The first 3 movies.
I would say it's Earth's Strongest was Tree of Might.
Tree of Might and the Dead Zone, yeah.
Dead Zone. I love Dead Zone because all of Garlic Jr.'s henchmen are named after snacks.
Yeah, different spices, yeah.
Pepperoni, they were named after the spices, but their upgrades was they yelled pepperoni, tutti frutti. Oh, what were the other? You just have the one pepperoni, and he powers up, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm in.
Oh, that's right. That was the movie, and then in the TV show for the Garlic Saga, the Garlic Jr. Saga, that's when they were named after different.
Yeah, I had the entire Garlic Jr. Saga recorded on a VHS.
That stuff was so good. Oh, that was the easiest one to collect too, because it
was 8 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was I could actually afford to buy those at Suncoast Video.
Yeah. I think it was a New Year's Eve or something. The one night they just showed the entire Garlic Jr. Saga, and I put a tape in, it was just and record, and just let it go until the tape shut off.
Yeah, it was me and Endless Waltz. What a day. What a day.
George, what have you been playing?
I've been playing 2 games. I'm going to talk about the game I'm a little less high on first. I've been playing Uncharted. Is it Lost Legacy? The one where you play as Chloe? Yes, that's the one.
Yes.
I've been playing that. I'm in a race with a buddy to see who can get that platinum first. And I really like it so far. It's pretty. I like that they found a way to give you Uncharted gameplay that wasn't centered around Nathan Drake.
I agree.
I think that's great. Are you a Chloe or Elena guy?
Chloe.
Yeah, Chloe, hands down. I will say, having recently played the original 3, I don't really like the way Uncharted 4 or Lost Legacy feels. I think they got too realistic. And I think the second it stopped being an arcadey shooter with quote unquote precision platforming, they just kind of made the game less fun. And it's oh, congrats, you made it way more of a real experience. It's not better,
I feel like Uncharted 1 through 3 felt more like you were playing an action movie, and Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy were well, you're playing a story.
Yeah,
I like the action movie aspect of it.
Yeah, that or a gritty reboot,
yeah.
It's a difference. Logan's a good movie, but I don't know if Logan would make like a really interesting video game, like just like playing like
Yeah.
oh your character can't run because he's old and because his Achilles isn't healing the way it used to. I'm like, that's actually kind of not how I want to play my Wolverine. I kind of want him to be able to like jump 20 feet on top of a Sentinel, if you don't mind. And I feel like just in trying to be more realistic, they made it less fun. But like the game is gorgeous, the story is enthralling, like the acting and all that stuff is incredible. So I'm enjoying that. But that game is not the best game I've played this week.
Oh, what is?
Best game I've played this week. It's a little early to say it's my game of the year, but it's definitely in my top 5. I know that much. TMNT Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, I've heard a lot about this.
I'm not a big beat 'em up guy. That was never like my genre growing up. I was a big TMNT kid, had a couple VHS tapes that I wore down to absolute nothingness. Loved watching the show. Remember like the show not being on at the same time anymore and just like not understanding why. And so that was like my first real exposure to like cancellations and I guess sadness, we can just call it that. I was like 3 or 4. This game is like everything I want a video game to be, buddy. It is loud, it is pretty, it is colorful, and it is so fast. Then that is my favorite thing about it. There's literally one attack button, and that's just square on PlayStation, right? Like you have a 4-hit combo that fills up your special meter, and then you can unload your special, and that's basically it. I've only played the story mode so far, where there's like an overworld, not unlike old like Super Mario 3. And you're just navigating the city and you're fighting all these different bosses. Each level is like 5 minutes, maybe less if you're good at the game. I'm not particularly good. And it culminates in like a boss fight. And I think the hit detection is like probably like a little cheap, not even for the bosses, but for you rather. Like I think you get hit a little too easily. I think you get hit a little too hard. But like I said, I'm not very good at these games. So what do I know? I just know I feel like I get knocked down quite a bit, and I don't always understand why. It's so much fun, dude, and it's like 7-player co-op, right? Because you get the 6, but there's 7 characters. That's an oversight.
So they make it that way because since you cannot be the same character twice, like there can't be 2 Raphaels or anything. So just the more characters they have, the better. And they do 6 to begin with, and then the 1 unlockable later. That way, right from the get-go, you can do 6-player co-op from the moment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I'm concerned. I don't have 6 friends who want to play this game with me, so like it's not that big of a deal. But dude, it's just so much fun. Like I was playing earlier tonight. Everything is like really well organized in the game. The trophies are some are going to be hard. Not going to lie. I think there's one trophy for like defeating Super Shredder without being hit, which just like seems impossible to me. I have no idea how you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, and like I play a lot of, I'm not gonna say a lot, but a good few beat 'em ups, and I just don't understand. No, I don't. No.
Yeah, that's not really my speed. Great game though. I cannot recommend it enough, and I think it's on Game Pass.
It is.
Cool. If not, it was just so nice paying like $20 for like a full experience game that was just chock full of references that I got, some that I didn't, but it was just fun. It was really lighthearted. Like you could be down health and then you can actually just go up and high five someone and like, they'd lose 2 health, but you gain 2 health. Like when someone gets knocked down, you got 10 seconds to revive them. Then someone like comes up and pulls out a slice of pizza and then feeds them the slice of pizza. And like, that's what brings them back.
I heard about that and that's awesome.
You get little taunts you can do that can like charge your super. And it's like Donatello's is just like turning away saying in a minute. And he's just like playing like the weird Game Boy device that he made in the game, like the weird Game Boy knockoff.
That's great.
It's just little things like that where it's just super fun, and God, it's just everything I want it to be. So those are my 2 games.
I want to get the physical for Shredder's Revenge.
Oh yeah,
but there's no date for it yet.
Yeah, placeholder is December 31st, right?
August 31st. I saw.
On Amazon, it was December 31st. I saw.
See, that makes it even worse because on Amazon, December 31st, on Best Buy, August 31st, meaning who knows?
No one knows. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's up on limited run. So Who knows?
Yeah, I assume the copies from Amazon would be like the limited run copies, right? Isn't that how that works? Because like Job Simulator is like a limited run game on PS4, but like that was like I
So Job
saw that at Best
Simulator
Buy.
wasn't limited run.
It wasn't.
No, it was just a very limited print run. I have Job Simulator; it's worth a ton. But yeah, it wasn't a limited run game.
I feel like I've seen limited run published games at
So
Best Buy.
you will only Switch versions. They
Gotcha.
only carry. Best Buy only has Switch versions of the games. Amazon is getting like I think like all versions.
Gotcha.
I think. But yeah, it's I want to get. I'd love to play it. It honestly, if the physical was out right now, I get paid Friday, I would pick it up.
Yeah, no, it's super good. Worth every penny. I will say the one thing that it's really teaching me though is like how clunky and stupid the PlayStation 5 UI still is. Like just trying to like find a friend to play with. I was trying to like message my buddy Colin, and I was just like, oh, I don't see him online. Like I'll just send him a message. And it took forever to find, like, the way it's organized is like the last person online PSN. But like even then, like I went down to like 5 months ago was like their last check. And I'm like, well, I know for a fact I played with him on Friday. So like I know like this isn't organized correctly. And then I went up to like search for a friend and I kept trying to search like his real name. Nothing came up. And then I tried searching his PSN name. And I got like halfway. I'm like, how are you not bringing up like my friend first? Like, why are you bringing up like random people I could add as a friend? Like, it's just not very intuitive. And there's one thing, I don't know if you have you don't have an iPhone, do you?
I don't, but I have an iPod.
Okay. There's like an Apple TV function where like if you go to a single search bar on your Apple TV, you'll get a prompt on your phone saying like, do you want to just type it here? I'm like, yes, I do. I just want to like type it into my phone and like search that way. Incredibly fast, incredibly seamless, incredibly smooth. I just wish there was a way to like integrate that a little bit to PlayStation just to make things move a little faster.
Yeah, I agree with that. That would make it just so much nicer, so much easier to work with.
Yeah.
I hate typing on PlayStation. I love PlayStation, but yeah, there are some things about it, like you said, where it's just
why is partying up such a pain in the butt? Like why is it this difficult? Come on.
I have had a PlayStation 5 since the day it came out, and I still go in, I'm like, wait, is this how I do it? I forget.
Yeah,
Why?
They updated it, I want to say like last December, and they made it like 20% better than it used to be, but that's still like not where we should be, I feel personally. But yeah, just some things I noticed.
So as for me, I have played 3 games. I beat 1, which is as was announced last Monday, the PS5 versions of Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3 remakes are out on the current gen consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox Series. And I have been playing the PS5 version of Resident Evil 7, which is my number 7 favorite game of all time. And as of about an hour before right now, I have the platinum in Resident Evil 7. So here's the fun quote unquote thing. It does auto pop trophies, but I saw a bunch of people saying, hey, it auto pops all but these ones. I'm like, all right, I can do that. A lot of them are just like, do this thing in the game, which you could do really fast. So I bring in my save, and it auto pops 19 trophies. Now, keep in mind, I mean 19 of the 63 spanning the game and all the DLC.
Mm-hmm.
The actual game itself, it popped 6 trophies. Out of, I think it's 40 or 39. It popped 6. So it acknowledged that I beat the game on Madhouse, the hardest difficulty and everything. And when I went in, it had all the unlockables from when I unlocked everything on the PS4 version. But I had to like re-unlock all the trophies, recollect all the files, all the coins on easy and normal, all the coins on Madhouse. Yep. Which no, I had to play my favorite.
That's the that's the part. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like with certain games like that, like it's really cool that I could just put in Spider-Man, download my save, and just get a platinum, right?
Yeah.
But doesn't that rob me of replaying Spider-Man?
I like when games do it because it gives me the option. Okay, so Ghost of Tsushima, I beat it, and at the end I'm like, this game isn't that good. And
Well, that's one opinion, but all right.
And I was already close enough. I'm like, I might as well just go for the stuff for the platinum because I can like pop in a movie and do it. So it's not like I'm like wasting my time on this game because I'll be spending more time paying attention to the movie, etc. And then the PS5 version came out and I'm like, okay. And it auto popped like all but one trophy. I'm like, okay. I just have to play the game for 5 minutes, take a photo, and ping platinum. I like when that happens. But when it's a game that like Resident Evil, I'm like, I will gladly play this game over and over and over and over again. So I don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing for me is there was no uniformity in the trophy pops because not like I said, not all of them popped, and not all of them popped that other people said, and that was the big thing for me. So like, it's just random trophies are popping. That's just really weird to me.
It's pretty funny though. I mean, like you're not mad because you got to
No.
replay it.
No, and
And
that's just it. Like I absolutely love the game, so
I respect that more than just like the straight auto pop trophy though. Like do you think there should be like like an asterisk or something, like a shadow platinum if it was just a pop platinum? Because like I understand like in the amount like the time between trophies, that's like how you can figure out how it happened. But I think there should be something like a little bit more prominently displayed to let people know that this was an auto pop.
Part of me wants to say yes, but also part of me wants to say no. Big example. So I'm playing through, and I'm not really going to talk about this week. I'm waiting till I beat it, but I've been playing through Death Stranding on PS5. I just restarted the game, blah, blah, but if I would have uploaded my PS4 save data, I was on chapter 5. So like it would have auto popped like 25 trophies for me. But I'm playing through most of the game on the PS5 version. So like I don't want it to penalize me for being like, hey, I've done all this once and I'm just upgrading it to play through this new one. But also, it's like I think auto pop platinums, if they were to penalize someone, would be the same penalty you get for platinums, like the ones that you can get in like 15 seconds by like booting up a game, pressing 3 buttons, and boom, pop.
Yeah. I've been trying to really stay away from BS platinums. I think last year I got like 3. It was like 36 Fragments of Midnight. But like that one ended up being like kind of challenging for me. I'm not like very good at platformers.
So I have the platinum on the PS4 version. I don't have the platinum on the Vita one yet. I don't think, because I was having trouble. And even if I do have the platinum now, it took me a while to get it.
Yeah.
So no, I get that. Even I've kind of dumbed down with that. I still do it occasionally because like I'm playing through Sakura Succubus 2, which is like a 2-hour visual novel. But at the same time, I don't consider that the same thing because you can do it super fast and get the platinum in like 10 minutes. But I'm choosing to actually read through and play the entire game.
Right. Hey man, sometimes you want like a gourmet, Angus beef burger. Sometimes you want a crappy double cheeseburger from McDonald's, Sometimes nothing will hit the spot except for a McDouble.
Exactly. And speaking of hitting the spot, not only have I been playing Resident Evil 7, there's another horror game that I've been playing. I'm about halfway through it, and I'm saving it for on streams, which has killed me because ever since I played it on Sunday, all I've wanted to do is pop this game in. And it's called Tormented Souls. Published by P-Cube and developed by Dual Effect Games. This kind of harkens back to the old days of the original Resident Evils and Silent Hills, to the point where there are 2 control schemes on at all times. You can choose how you want to do it. And by that, I mean, if you use the analog stick, you'll move like any other normal game right now. But you can use the D-pad to use tank controls.
Okay.
We're like, it doesn't need to be there. but also it is, and that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
At no point do you need to use the trophy list for the Resident Evil remake, the original Resident Evil. There is a trophy for beating the entire game playing in tank controls. In Tormented Souls, it's just like, it's there. You can use it if you want. If you don't want to, it's okay too. Platinum, no, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's cool. It's fun. But I'm really, really liking the design of this game. I'm finding it more tense than scary in a lot of moments. It still has scares. There are still moments where I'm like, what? But I'm finding it a lot more tense. You can't go into the darkness. You have a lighter, but you cannot go into the darkness because it messes with your sanity and your health goes down super fast. There are creatures more a la Silent Hill, and those are the enemies of the game. And your main weapon is a nail gun, at least for where I'm at. I think I'm roughly about halfway, maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
less. I'm thoroughly enjoying this game. Like, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm playing the PS5 version, and I already decided I kind of want to go for the platinum. It'll take like 3 or 4 playthroughs, but once you get it down, to give you an idea, there's a trophy for speedrunning it in under 3 hours. And the guide I was looking at said, yeah, I can beat it in 2 hours easily.
Oh,
Once
okay.
you know what you're doing. And knowing enemy placement, there are roughly 80 enemies in the game through and through, and just knowing where they are will make it easier. There's a trophy for beating the game without using any healing. It's such a good game. I cannot recommend it enough, and I am so sad it took me this long to play it because I got the game last October.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, I'm thankful because I also picked up the PS4 version. I had no idea I still had on pre-order, and so I popped that in and used the PS5 upgrade, so my PS5 copy is still sealed. But it's such a good game. The last game I want to talk about is a game I pre-ordered back in April. Came out May 12th. My copy finally came like 2 weeks ago. It is called The Centennial Case, a Shijima story. It is a murder mystery FMV game made by Square Enix.
That's just so many different checkboxes for Elijah.
It really is. And I am loving it. Basically, the whole idea is you play as this writer. She writes mystery novels, and your friend comes at the beginning and says, hey, we're having a ceremony at the house. It happens once every 100 years. I was wondering if you'd like to come along, but here's the real thing. I want you to maybe look into, there are some bones that were recently found near the house. Maybe you can do some sleuthing and
Yeah.
just say you're writing a book about the ceremony. And you get there, and your assistant hands you a book and says, hey, this kind of chronicles someone who has gone through this before. And it takes you back to the early 1900s, and kind of uses all the like same actors, because in her mind she's imagining them as like her as the main character in the book, and like all these people that she knows in real life as like the people in her mind as she's reading the book.
Okay.
So it works out that way. Okay, that's clever. I'll give it that. And it's about solving that murder, and I'm on chapter 2 now, and there's another murder, and I just solved that one, and I am thoroughly enjoying this game so much more than I ever expected. I love FMV games, but this is like top notch. And granted, part of it is probably because it was, published by Square Enix. It probably had Square Enix money, but I'm trying to remember. I read who were like the heads of it. I want to say it was written by the person who wrote the Zero Escape series,
Oh, the
the Nonary games.
nonary. I was like non-binary. No, that's not it. That's a different word.
Um, which I've heard the writing in those are amazing. The person who like directed it is like a famous director who makes Netflix shows.
Mm-hmm.
And like these are high quality people who made the game, so it kind of explains it all.
Yeah, just swinging that Square Enix budget. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm absolutely loving it. I cannot probably like after the podcast, I'm going to be starting chapter 3. It is everything I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah,
and I get sucked in. There's actually trophies for collecting clues in the mission or like in the chapter that I miss half the time because I'm just watching it and like just engrossed in the story, and like the clue will pop up and I'm like not noticing.
right.
And then occasionally you'll make a decision as like, oh, should I say this? Should I say this? And at the end, when you get to the end of the chapter, I'm like, all right, time to put clues together and come up with hypotheses and figure this out. So it kind of brings you a board on screen and it'll say, for example, why is the mummy important? And it'll has like a list of all the scenes that you can actually go back to any of them and press a button and it'll show you that scene again, that scene from it. And it'll have all the clues underneath. Even ones you didn't find, it'll still come up with all of the clues throughout the chapter. And then you have to go through and put this clue goes with this and this one, and then it'll unlock more questions that you can try and answer until you get to the very end and it'll say solve. And the nice thing is I'm not the best at this kind of thing, but the clues will match with the question. There will be it's like a hexagonal, like every shape is hexagonal.
Potato, potato. I think you're
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And whatever, there will be like a sign, like a symbol that's on the question that's on that side. And you can find the clue that has that symbol that matches it on that same side. So it kind of like goes in together.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them, oh, this clue goes right here. And that really helps me a lot just because I'm not the best at, wait, would this be considered here? Would I want that in another one? And
Right.
it just really makes it much easier. And at the end, you are graded based on how many you can't fail, which is nice. Because if you choose the wrong thing, someone will just be like, I don't think that's right. And then she'll be like, wait a second, it's actually. And
What
then
a participation trophy detective you got there.
it really is. And I am so thankful for that. And just you solving the murder. And before, as basically the character walks in the room, the first thing that pops into my head is Michael Scott. There's been a murder in Savannah. I've said it out loud for both chapters 1 and 2 so far.
Oh, really? Honestly, as soon as you said Michael Scott, I just immediately thought, I declare bankruptcy. It's like, no, you don't just say you're bankrupt.
You can't just declare it. I do declare.
Is it in Japanese or is it in English?
So that's the fun thing. So my copy I ordered from PlayAsia, it is a Japanese copy of the game.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you boot it up in English, it's like, hey, do you want the language in English or Japanese? And I haven't checked any other language, like if it has others or that. Like, do you want it in English or Japanese? English. And do you want the subtitles in English or Japanese? And you can choose.
Cool.
And it makes it nice because like I have like an illness with my eyes at the moment. Hopefully it goes away very fast here. And so I can't really read on a screen a whole lot right now because it hurts my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have it on English dialogue and I can watch it.
So you're wearing aviator sunglasses right now, not just because they look cool, but because it's like a medical prosthesis right now, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I got eye drops from a doctor today.
Woo.
Fun fact.
Pink eye?
No, what is it? Bacterial
meningitis?
No, but something itis. I can't.
Conjunctivitis?
Is it conjunctivitis? Because all I could think of is conjunction junction. What's your function?
I don't think it's that.
No, but yeah, I have that. So reading on a screen right now is just not.
I mean, sorry, this is actually a HIPAA violation. I didn't have to ask you. I'm sorry, you didn't have to answer either. I apologize.
I don't care. I don't give a frack. So
so that's what you've been playing.
That is what I've been playing.
Cool. Really quick, I played Siphon Filter also.
Oh,
and I don't the PlayStation 5 classic version, right? Like of the PlayStation 1 game. The game plays bad. Like I remember playing it on PlayStation. I thought it was bad. I have no affinity for that game, so I don't want to sit here and dunk on like a 30-year-old game, 25-year-old game. What I will say though is that the emulation is incredible. Like the game runs great. Everything goes super fast. Everything looks really sharp, for better or worse. It kind of points out all the flaws of what was done the first time. But like the UI they added on top of that's really amazing. Like the save state, the rewind feature is just present. And it's awesome. I like shot out the lights just to see if I could. I totally could. And then the room I was in was way too dark for me to see. So I just paused the game and then I rewinded it to before I shot out the lights and everything was seamless and perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So really, really well done there. That's probably why there's so few games, I'm guessing, available. That, and they're also just going to do like a trickle out release schedule for all of them, just to be like, look, 5 more games, for PlayStation added this month. I assume that's what that sounds,
which
like
makes sense to me.
Yeah. But the actual just like interface and the emulator they have is really, really impressive. I haven't played any PlayStation 2 games though, so I cannot speak to those.
That's awesome though. Like it seems that what they did for him isn't insignificant. Like it's not a lot, but also it does help, which is nice. Sure. Which is very nice. Now, the next thing I figured we'd talk about is something we haven't talked about yet, and it happened last week. And that is there was a Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary event. And I was not getting my hopes up because I'm like, Square Enix likes to make me cry. So I was like, whatever, whatever they show. Maybe they'll show us a little something, maybe not. And then they gave me everything I ever wanted. And I cried, but good tears this time. So they started off by announcing a remaster of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, which makes me so happy because that game was stuck on the PSP, where everyone is finally going to be able to experience the story of Zack.
Dude, not only was it stuck on the PSP, it was stuck on UMD. You couldn't even buy that game digitally on PSP. You couldn't buy that game on Vita. It's ridiculous. So
it's super nice that's finally coming out. That is coming out on PS4, Switch, Xbox, and PC. Which, for a little bit, I'm like, wait, why is that coming out on everything when only PC and PlayStation have the Final Fantasy VII remake? But then I thought about it. Oh, it doesn't change the fact that, like, on Xbox and Switch, you can play Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, yeah, it goes along with it. But the other thing they gave us... Oh, and they also gave us some merchandise in the little showing, which I knew about the clock beforehand, but I want that clock. And I don't remember which color it is. I think it's the purple one. But each one, it's a different color, and it plays a different song as the alarm. And I think the purple one might be One Winged Angel.
Elijah, I love you. I'm looking at your room. Where the hell are you going to put it? Oh, shut up. Oh, you're gonna move your flight stick? You're gonna find some space over there?
Actually, yeah, I have to move that flight stick anyhow. I want to put like a couple other things up there, and I was thinking the clock could go up there too. That way,
if you want to move it to my house, I could be convinced.
I was playing Ace Combat 7 with that thing a few weeks ago, and I am not good. But the other thing they gave us was not just a trailer, but a release window for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The second part of what they confirmed is a trilogy in the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, which a lot of people thought it was going to be called Remake 2, but I kind of had a feeling it wouldn't be, just because of where a lot of people, I should say, thought it was going to be called Remake 2 and wondered how much of the game it was going to cover. And if it's just 3 parts, there's no way. I'm like, well, it's more of a sequel, but it's not something we're going to talk about right now. Yeah, it's more of a sequel to the original game than a remake. And I am so excited for this game. I can't wait until Square Enix puts an obnoxiously expensive collector's edition up for pre-order. Because yet again, I will pre-order it. Looking at you, First Class Edition Cloud on his not on Fenrir, but on the Hardy Daytona. I can't wait. I can't wait.
I know nothing about Final Fantasy VII, so that means that reference you just made means literally nothing to me. I love you so much. You're such a good friend. I don't want you to feel bad.
No, honestly, that's fair. I get it.
That means absolutely less than nothing.
I also didn't understand a naming convention that Square is using until I listened to a podcast today. So we have Advent Children, AC.
Okay.
Before Crisis, BC. Crisis Core, CC. Dirge of Cerberus, DC. Ever Crisis, the new mobile game, EC. So when are we getting FC? Yeah. I never noticed that before.
How much information was that all the announcements that happened at the
basically they showed new trailer for Ever Crisis, the mobile game, which is covering the stories of, it is a turn-based RPG, and it's covering original Final Fantasy VII, Advent Children, Before Crisis, Crisis Core, and Dirge of Cerberus.
Gotcha.
Dirge of Cerberus, which is still stuck on the PS2, and Before Crisis, which was a phone game that never came to the States.
Okay. So how integrated is Crisis Core to the new remakes that they're doing, right? So we had Final Fantasy VII. This is great. Everyone loved it. People were super happy. Then we got Crisis Core on PSP 10 years later. And then Dirge of Cerberus 5 years later on PS2 or whatever. And whatever. So they're remaking Crisis Core, but they've already remade Final Fantasy VII and changed things, right? So is this new game, they announced that the Final Fantasy VII remake is going to be a trilogy. So is this game important to the story, or is it just an independent remake that's more of a straight remake?
It is much more important now even than it was to the original, and even to the original it was rather important, but it's even more important now. And they straight up said it is a remaster for Crisis Core, and I think the biggest thing is they're saying that so hey, it is the original game. We're not really going to change much of anything. You're getting the original story, which is what it kind of needs to be.
Okay, but if it's that important, is it really a trilogy or is it a quadrology?
It is whatever Square wants it to be at this point.
All right. So you know how I feel about Final Fantasy, which is just I'm new to it, basically, right? Gaming is probably my second favorite hobby. My number one favorite hobby is comic books, right? And so a couple years ago, there was this series called Final Crisis, and it was 7 issues, right? Between issues 3 and 4 was a 2-issue miniseries called Final Crisis Superman Beyond 3D, written by the author of the main series. Now, so much stuff happens in those 2 issues that inform the last half of that series that I don't understand why it was a separate series that people would probably miss because it wasn't part of the main series. So it's is Final Crisis a 7-issue series or is it a 9-issue series? I'm inclined to say it's a 9-issue series, maybe even a 11-issue series if we count the other tie-ins that the main author did. So just if we're really talking about this honestly and earnestly, why isn't this Final Fantasy Like, why wasn't this? This a prequel? Correct.
Yes.
Crisis Core is a prequel.
Yes.
Like, I understand that like Final Fantasy VII is like the show, right? Like that's like the main draw. So I get why they lead with that, but like, should they have let off with Crisis Core? Like, are they being arbitrarily or like organizing this poorly?
No.
Okay.
It is a good thing they did FF7 remake before Crisis Core because of certain story beats, which I'm not going to talk about on the podcast in case anybody hasn't played it yet. But you would get enough playing the game without playing Crisis Core, I would think. But I shouldn't even say get enough. You'll get a bit, but maybe not enough. Maybe enough. I don't know. It depends how you look at it. That's why it's so hard.
Sure.
You can get away without playing Crisis Core, but also you should play Crisis Core because it goes even deeper than you think. Because why not?
Okay, but like my metaphor, my comparison to the comic books, like, am I close?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also you understand where I'm coming from.
Yes, I understand completely where you're coming from. It's one of those things you can just play the series, but it is highly recommended that you play Crisis Core. It's like you can just watch, the Star Wars movies, but it's highly recommended you read some of the books. Where it's like you don't have to, but okay. For example, there was a certain bounty hunter that showed up in the Boba Fett series that I'm like, who dat? And someone's like, if you watched the, I think it was
the Clone Wars cartoon,
that character is in there, and I'm like, okay. So if I would have watched the Clone Wars, I would have gotten more out of it, including knowing exactly who it was and such. But not watching Clone Wars, I'm like, oh, it's a bounty hunter. Okay, I get it.
I hear you, but like this just feels like a little different, and I don't want to get into semantics here, but it's like, why didn't they just call it Final Fantasy VII 2 when it first came out, like when it was Crisis Core, right? Like,
because Square Enix names.
Okay, yeah.
This was before they did the whole like, hey, sequel thing, like with 10 and 13. This was, hey, it's a side game in the series. We're giving it its own name, so like you don't have to play this one, but it is set in the universe and it's tied together. But like you don't have to.
So stupid. I just keep thinking about that comic book I referenced. I'm like, man, the villain changed. Like the entire point of the series changed in that 2-issue miniseries. And then you just like come back and you're just like, I don't know why he doesn't care about person A right now, and all he cares about is person B.
So, and kind of tying into that, now it is much more different than it was before. With original Final Fantasy VII, it was like, okay, you learn some things throughout Final Fantasy VII, and it's not as big a thing to play Crisis Core for the story. Like, hey, you're getting more story, but it's not as big of a thing to the overall Final Fantasy VII story.
Right.
This time, it's very different. Is all I'll say.
Okay. All right.
But they did say that Crisis Core Reunion is what it's called. Crisis Core Reunion is this winter, which I look at as it could be late 2022, but I'm going to guess more early 2023. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, is going to be next winter. So late 2023, early 2024. I'm going to lean more on the 2024 side because if I refuse to get my hopes up for.
So wait, Rebirth is the second part of the remake?
Yes.
We probably would have been like a better title for the first one, but okay. All right. Are you pissed that they're doing Crisis Core and like that's like the reason you're not getting Final Fantasy Remake Part 2 as soon as?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
because part of it is Crisis Core, like I said, like we were saying, is stuck on the PSP and specifically stuck on UMD. Not that many people are going to get to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I've never beaten it. I've been wanting to play it. But now I can play it and get trophies, and it's going to look prettier and play better. And I'm completely okay with this.
Gotcha. All right.
So that is the Final Fantasy VII news that came out. I'm super excited. The last thing I want to mention quick. Skull and Bones got a rating in Brazil, is it? I want to say. The Ubisoft pirate game that came out originally from Assassin's Creed and got spun off into its own thing that is specifically like the pirate ship game that just disappeared for years. And Ubisoft is constantly like, yeah, no, we're still making it. Okay, but where is it? We're still making it. Okay, but where is it? Making it. And that's all we've heard. But now it got a rating. And it got a rating specifically for PC, Stadia, PS5, and the Xbox Series consoles. Which means two important things. One, Stadia. And two, it is a next-gen only game now. I'm still very curious about this game, I'm not gonna lie, because the ship parts of Assassin's Creed 4 were my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if with it getting a release or a rating, means that game is probably closer than we think. Why is Ubisoft not even mentioned? Hey, guess what's coming soon? They haven't said anything. They haven't acknowledged this game's existence in like a year. That worries me.
Ubisoft didn't have like an E3 presentation this year, did they?
Nope.
They did last year though, right?
Yep.
That was where we saw the biking game. Can't remember what it's called.
Riders Republic.
Right, I was like, I own that game. I can't.
I was gonna say, I know you played that game even.
Yeah, I played several hours of that game. Good, forgettable. What happened to Ubisoft, man? Like, I swear, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe, I was like, these are hands down the best like third-party publishers in the industry, right? Like, I think that was right around the time of Origins and like Far Cry 5-ish and some other stuff.
Honestly, that's a very good question that I don't know the answer to either, because now a lot of this stuff ended up just, I don't trust their release dates anymore, because everything
their release dates. I don't trust them as a developer anymore.
Well, and that's partially what I mean, because everything is getting delayed or just non-existent. What games have we heard from them in the last 2 years have actually come out besides Far Cry 6?
Did the Crew 2?
The Crew 2 came out, but that was like 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. We think about it. First off, everything they've announced in the past 2 years, except for Far Cry and like Riders Republic, is free to play. Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland. Don't know where that's at. That just went into hiding. Tom Clancy's X-Defiant went into hiding. Ghost Recon, whatever that like battle royale, not battle royale looking game, just went into hiding. Skull and Bones, hiding. Beyond Good and Evil, hiding. Prince of Persia, delayed for the 80th time.
Yeah, Hyperscape was delisted too, right?
Hyperscape, they completely killed. What is going on with Ubisoft?
I don't know, and there's no more Rayman on the horizon, which is really all I care about at this point.
The big thing is, we don't know what's on the horizon. They haven't said anything is on the horizon. That's what's so confusing. What is Ubisoft doing? What is going on there?
It's
like,
The closest thing it feels like, I don't know if anyone who's listening watches basketball, but like Phoenix was like the team to beat in the West. And then they just got destroyed in the playoffs in like either second round. Yeah, second round, I think. Maybe. Yeah, it was a second round. Where like they just like didn't show up. Like they just completely fell apart. Like, oh, the engine for their offense was like Chris Paul's a point guard and he just like couldn't do anything. And like Devin Booker just like went cold and like stopped making shots. And they're just like, oh crap, you guys are actually just like 1.5 like bad players away from not being good, and we thought you were the best. And so it just feels like it just feels like they lost their gas the past couple of years. And like, I don't want to speculate. I assume it has to do with huge turmoil up at the top, right? Like all the
You would think.
Is it Yves Guillemot? All that stuff.
Yves Guillemot.
So I assume that's like having some ripple effect, but like I don't want to sound like too dramatic, but like, is their reputation salvageable? Like, yeah, it really is. But like, is the next year and a half really important in salvaging that reputation? Absolutely. And like you said, like, what are they doing? Like, I don't know what to look forward to from Ubisoft. Like, I grabbed Rainbow Six Extraction, which also is clearly like a pivot from another game that they had intended, and then they changed. I think we speculated on this podcast that it was like they were going to call it like Quarantine or something, and then the pandemic happened.
Yes.
That's why they changed it to like the ugliest looking like alien creatures that have like no features.
They didn't really change it. Apparently, the creatures in Siege actually looked pretty similar.
Okay, that's weird choice, but all right. So yeah, this feels like make it or break it time for what I would have considered the strongest third party publisher not that long ago. Like I liked all their games more than EA games. I liked them. I thought they were making more interesting stuff than Activision. Like I'm talking like strictly like Western third party publishers.
To give you an idea,
I don't know.
Everything that we know that exists or that Ubisoft has said, hey, we are making, we don't even have a year for anything. When I say we don't know what's on the horizon, I mean, we literally don't even, nothing was even announced. Hey, 2024. We got this. Literally nothing. Nothing Ubisoft has said they're making even remotely has a, hey, we're targeting this. Nothing. Dead silence. We haven't even heard of a Just Dance this year.
Oh no.
But you know what I mean. Just Dance is the exactly safe bet for Ubisoft.
I know what you mean. It's
what
just
going on.
Like, I mean, I assume that the pandemic somehow like messed them up more than other developers, right? Like, at least that's what it seems like. Like, that's like
sure
that's like a top level answer, and the mismanagement happening there with all the sexual harassment cases. Is that mismanagement?
Yeah.
If it's bad management, let's call it bad, what it is.
Yeah.
Bad people doing bad things.
And and the situation's being handled horribly.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh man, this is like between that and then like supply issues, stay-at-home orders, quarantine,
NFTs.
Yeah, NFTs and Web3 screwing up everything for whatever reason people allowed
Ubisoft
it to.
Quartz.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh man, what a perfect like storm of just terrible things to happen all at once. But are they? I need to do some research just to see like what they're valued at now compared to what they were like 4 years ago. But like, man, we were talking about like acquisitions and corporate consolidation not that long ago on this show. I feel like just like 6 weeks ago. What a vulnerable company for someone to just come up and poach, right?
It really is. And it makes me wonder, it makes me hope not.
Mm-hmm.
But the way everything's going, I wouldn't.
Well, like 10 years ago, they were actively fighting off like a hostile takeover from, was it Vivendi?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh man, if they had just waited a few years, they could have done it now. But then it's just like, is the brand even worth as much as it was 10 years ago? Like, I doubt it, to be completely honest. So it's like, would they even want to take it over now? It's just so weird from the outside to see. It's like seeing like a really good action movie director just like get into like making like art house music videos, and you're like, okay, this is cool, but like, man, this is not what we came here for, you know?
What if Ridley Scott decided, you know what, I like the way Uwe Boll makes movies. Let's do it that way.
Be pretty nuts.
I say that as Uwe Boll makes a whole bunch of Capcom-based movies, or a whole bunch of Ubisoft movies, which
and Ridley Scott is one of the best directors of all time. Yeah, gotta be what a heel turn for Ridley. Yeah,
I was watching Alien before this. That's why his name popped into my head. But that is everything we have for the night, folks. George, do you have anything you would like to say before we close out for the evening?
Yeah, like I alluded to at the top, unfortunately the Celtics lost the NBA championship, so I am no longer on a bi-weekly release schedule for my comic book podcast, Shortbox Summary. This week, we released an episode where I interviewed indie comic writer Anthony Stokes about his new series Decay. And we also had a discussion where he put out some feelers for people on his super active Twitter account, asking what the best comic book movie was and what the most underrated comic book movie was. And we just have discussions. I drank a lot of wine for this episode because I wasn't expecting to record that night. And then a last minute shift in plans made us record. So I haven't recorded like a drunk podcast like that in a while. I felt like I was in college again. It was almost nice being back until I was editing it. And then I was just severely embarrassed at how many times I repeated myself throughout that entire conversation. Still a really fun episode, though. Stokes is awesome. So please check out Shortbox Summary. And then next week, we'll be on our regular weekly schedule talking about comic books.
I cannot wait to listen.
Thank you.
As for some housekeeping for me, I am going to be starting up a new seasonal-based podcast, meaning I'm going to record about 3 months at a time and putting up. And I'm really excited to get that going. That'll probably start here within the next couple months. And yeah, that's just a new podcast in this network to listen to. Another thing, last week and a few more weeks coming up, I will be guesting on another podcast, the Gamers Night Out podcast. A couple of good friends record, and I am hanging out with them for a few weeks. So make sure you give a listen to them. It's a good time, good crew, and good fun. Remember, you can catch us on any podcast source of your choice. Make sure you get your questions in to bit.ly/frameskipq or on our Twitter at frameskippodcast. You can even send your questions right to me at LocoLizardman on Twitter. And remember, I stream on Twitch at LocoLizardman. I normally stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening, but right now I am guesting on that podcast on Sunday evenings. So at the moment, it's just Fridays and Saturdays, but we'll be back to normal in just a few weeks here. You can find George on Twitter at PurpleBird616. Find Austin at Austin J. Eller. Seth at Seth the 90s Kid. Don't follow him. And trying to think if there's anything else we need to bring up the rear with. And I don't think so. I think we're good for the evening. I'm kind of hyper on just medicine right now, so probably a good time to get rolling out of here. George, thank you for hanging out tonight. And until next week, you lovely folks. Good night, listeners. Good night.